There's this bizarre story about why prosecutors are having a hard time cutting plea deals with the Trump insurrectionists, with the seditionists, the traitors who stormed the Capitol on January 6th. But I also have this larger question, and I think it's a really important one, and you know that I put before you today, as well as the rest of the world, and that is, was January 6th worse than 9/11? I mean, just think about that for a minute, all right? We're debating whether or not to have a commission to investigate January 6th, like we investigated 9/11. We're having discussions of January 6th as if it was, on the one hand, some sort of major historic, this has never happened before, or the last time this happened was when Abe Lincoln was president, on the one hand. And then on the other hand, people like Congressman Clyde from Georgia saying, well, you couldn't have told the difference between what happened on January 6th and a normal tourist day. I mean, it was a normal tourist day. What are you all upset about? Come on. There is a 250 gigabyte leak of memos from inside the Washington, D.C. Metro Police Department that was obtained by a ransomware company. And they said, pay the ransom or we're going to start releasing your private memos. Now, some of these private memos actually include the names and incident reports of individual police officers who have been accused of wrongdoing. So it's embarrassing to the Metro D.C. Police Department. But what's interesting is they've started releasing the documents. They started releasing the documents last week. And what's interesting is that there was this operation, this program that they were tracking, they and the FBI, and we're seeing a lot, I mean, these are not leaks from the FBI, but there are a lot of memos between the FBI and the D.C. Police Department around what they referred to as Popcorn Day. It was called, the program was actually by the people who were doing it, who were the white supremacists who were marching on the Capitol with the intent of murdering the vice president and the Speaker of the House and presumably any other member of Congress who got in their way. Those people had their own name for it. They called it Operation Stormbreaker. But the D.C. Metro Police were calling it Popcorn Day. Why? Because you will hear all kinds of pops all across America. If Operation Stormbreaker was successful, then, and this was, by the way, planned for January 19th, which is the day before Joe Biden is inaugurated president. It's the day before the peaceful transfer of power from Trump to Biden. That January 19th was supposed to, at least according to the files, not supposed to, but there's a very real possibility. Certainly, if the FBI had not gotten aggressive and started arresting people after January 6th, I think it probably would have happened. It was, well, this is from Jacob Shamsian at Insider.com. The plans, called Operation Stormbreaker, involved targeting landmarks, government buildings, power plants, and other civic institutions on January 19th. All across America, we would have explosions going off as a way of creating such a wild disruption across America that Donald Trump would have to remain president to deal with the crisis. This is from The Guardian, a piece by Jason Wilson. They also had a plan C. If Popcorn Day, if Operation Stormbreaker didn't work on January 19th, they had another plan for February. Quote, almost a month later, a bulletin reported that an unidentified militia group member in Texas was claiming that if their operation failed at the U.S. Capitol, there was a backup plan involving the group detonating bombs at the U.S. Capitol during the State of the Union. So, I mean, just take a look at what's going on here. Funded and supported by billionaire oligarchs in the U.S. and abroad, We have a movement here to turn America from a democratic republic into basically a white supremacist ethno-state oligarchy fronted by the GOP. And yeah, you know, I mean, just look at what they got away with, or what they've done so far. I mean, for centuries, first off, white cops have gotten away with routinely murdering unarmed black people and other minorities. Over 15 million people went into the streets to protest the police murder of George Floyd. And the white supremacist authoritarians in the Republican Party made common cause with corrupt cops rather than trying to reform a corrupt system, number one. Number two, male white supremacists in Michigan nearly succeeded in kidnapping Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer so that she could face a show trial and public execution on TV, on the internet. They invaded and seized control of numerous state capitals. They did it here in Oregon. One of the Republican members has been charged with opening the door for them, letting them in. While the National Guard forces were held in abeyance, they've turned Facebook and social media into recruiting tools for violent white supremacist activity, and now they're reaching out to young people with their movement. They're spreading lies and doubts about the COVID vaccine to prevent Biden from getting control of COVID and thus getting control of the economy. The Capitol Police report. This is a report from last week from the Capitol Police. Quote, this year alone there has been a 107% increase in threats against members of Congress compared to 2020. And 2020 was no picnic. Donald Trump was whipping up political violence as much as he could in 2020. They're passing laws in state after state to forbid the teaching of the actual history of what America has done to minorities in this country for 400 years. Almost the entire Republican Party is publicly lying about January 6th and what led up to it, and promoting Trump's big lie that Biden didn't really win by 7 million votes. They're using that big lie, Trump's big lie, to actively rig the 2024 election. They're actively closing polling places in communities of color. If citizens in states don't like this, you have 3 states, Florida, Idaho, and South Dakota, that just in the last 2 weeks have passed laws saying you can't put stuff on the ballot anymore. You want to put a ballot initiative on that says that the votes actually get counted by professional vote counters rather than the state legislator deciding who won the election? You can't do that anymore. They've introduced 144 laws like this in 32 states. They've packed the Supreme Court. I lay this out in, the hidden history in the Supreme Court book. I'm telling you, that's where it's at. So then we look back at 9/11 and what happened with 9/11 and how, Iraq was an easy target and Bush, well, without giving you the whole backstory, consider our response. I mean, our response to 9/11 was we spent over $1 trillion enhancing our security. We created new police agencies. We took Hitler's favorite term, Homeland, and started the Homeland, Security, Office of Homeland Security.